Welcome to SME's AM Influencer Series, dedicated to the passionate professionals who volunteer with SME to connect the digital thread of additive manufacturing within traditional manufacturing. My name is Adam Penny, your host, leading customer engagement for our SME additive manufacturing community. Kevin Ayers joins us today from Urbana-Champaign, Illinois. He's an experienced consulting editor with a demonstrated history of working in the mechanical and industrial engineering industry. Skilled in computer-aided design, that's CAD, with also PTC Creo and SolidWorks. And he's worked in plastics and manufacturing with a strong media communication professional, a BS focused in general engineering from the University of Illinois. He also has been with SME for 20 years in the past. He's also worked with the FBI for 30 years, as well as being a consulting editor over at Advanced Manufacturing Media. He's worked with Danfoss as an additive design and manufacturing specialist. And most recently, he's a top AM consultant. Kevin, welcome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Great to have you here. And I know we were just talking about spending a little time at AMUG, and that was a nice time. So really good to wrap up here with you and talk about what's been going on with additive manufacturing inside of manufacturing. And there's a lot to share. So happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
So in general, I mean, what was your first experience with additive manufacturing?
Well, in a way, when I was at the University of Illinois back in the early 80s, last century, we had built models using layers and layers of balsa wood.
Wow.
And I thought that was really cool how we were able to make a model then. But back in about 1987, the FBI borrowed me from a job I was doing at the time when the FBI and foreign counterintelligence actually, they needed a mechanical engineer to look at a thing called rapid prototyping, a new machine out there. And so I traveled to California and saw the first stereolithography machine in existence. And I fell in love with it instantly. The way the polymer grew out of a single layer into a three-dimensional object, I realized what the future was going to be and how it could benefit the FBI.
Cool. And so in that early stages, was it something that the benefit showed itself right away, or was it hard to find the true benefit at the time?
I kind of made a guess, my best guess about where it was headed. I saw, at the time it was mainly used only for models and for casting. But I said, you know what, I can design for that material and that process and make real parts. So right from the very beginning, starting about 1990, 91, we started making end components in numbers for the FBI.
Wow. It's interesting to know that they were getting involved back then in additive and looking at it as a solution for what's going on. I know a lot of people were testing things out, and it's grown into a whole industry now with end use parts. So it's been a heck of a ride so far, and there's so much more to come. I know there's a lot of people getting into manufacturing that would like to learn about adopting AM. What advice do you have for them?
Well, I think you need to go to the trade shows as soon as you can, however you can afford it. Go to RAPID, of course, SME event. And a number of SME events also have additive flavor to it. They have exhibitors come and special talks at every one of SME's events now, I believe. And RAPID is great. You'll see hundreds of exhibitors. And you need to see all those kinds of exhibitors to see the full breadth of what additive is today.
Yeah, there is a lot going on. That's good advice. It's a place where you could see those things all under one roof at RAPID TCT. It's going to be exciting this year for sure, especially after the pandemic we're coming out of, to have our community together and enjoying those things once again face to face. It's going to be a good thing. Really looking forward to being there. Additive manufacturing we were talking about has had an impact on the broad manufacturing industry as a whole. What impact do you see AM making to manufacturing?
At first, we started making small victories getting into manufacturing. But right now, what we're going to be seeing is using additive manufacturing to supplement production. As we've seen a lot of supply chain disruptions recently with COVID, Suez Canal, trade wars happening, ships being lost at sea, this is going to be a recurring theme. So we need additive to supplement production. And I think from a cost standpoint, that'll make sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. There's a lot happening that brings costs down with the progression of additive, and really looking how we could do things with less iterations and get things down to a solid manufacturing process. And when we're talking about like the impact that it has inside of the industry, there's been a lot of different experiences out there of people going through things with barriers of making additive to scale and how to improve supply chains and things like that. What have you seen as some of the barriers that have been surpassed? And I guess people nowadays are looking at in a new way of getting into additive, some of the initial barriers.
Initial barriers were, quite frankly, it's different.
Mm,
It's a change. It's disruptive in some cases. And people like to do their job a lot of times, most people, without having to change things. They've learned things for the casting process for years, and now you're adding a new process, and it frankly scares people.
mm.
But the bottom line is when they actually hold the parts in their hands and it solves problems for them, then the barriers start going away very quickly.
Yeah, great point. Great point. You brought up, we're talking about Rapid Plus TCT, but how has your experience been with the SME event Rapid Plus TCT over the years?
So, we started small, and most of the time when I started, it was like 30 vendors, then 60 vendors,
Wow.
exhibitors in the industry, and not a lot of businesses. But it's gone huge now. I mean, I don't know how many we're going to have at Rapid this year because the COVID restrictions have been laxed and we're adding new exhibitors. But we had 600 exhibitors last year at Formnext in Germany. We had 800 plus. I think by my numbers, we have 4,300 polymer OEMs.
Wow.
We have 190 metal OEMs. And people like China are producing a lot more companies and things like that. And also, the normal manufacturing paradigms are now being applied to additive manufacturing. So we're getting a lot of companies to deal with the business software side of additive and things like that, and neat software packages that help you design the parts automatically. It's getting me really, really excited.
Yeah, it is exciting. I know that seems like the new frontier right now with software development catching up to the machines and kind of pushing things into that manufacturing realm. Was just talking about simulation earlier and how that's really affected additive manufacturing and seems to be pushing things or stepping up iterations so we're not spending so much time going through the different iterations and really getting to the bottom line of what our finished produced part could be quickly through simulation. So it's stuff like that inside of software that's getting really exciting. There's so many cool things to do, especially I know you have a CAD background, and that's where I come from also is, being able to actually work inside of mechanical engineering and draw these parts in 3D, but then they actually have to build it for AM, design for additive manufacturing, and get it done inside of a build layer by layer. It's a bit of a change from the normal practices of manufacturing and drafting in the past. Now we're looking at what we could build specifically for additive manufacturing. There's a lot of, I guess, software and thinking and engineering that goes into that new development, getting progressive inside of additive manufacturing, but it's getting exciting. So that's another good thing to look forward to at the show this year. So I guess when we're talking about Rapid Plus TCT, what are you looking forward to seeing this year?
What I'm looking for is some of the new metal technologies that are coming up can use any metal alloy that can be found in MIM and powdered metal. And that's exciting to me because mainly the metal machine companies focused on metals they could do and metals for like aerospace and medical markets.
Hmm.
But manufacturing is much broader than that, especially when you talk about quantities of parts. So I'm looking for these new technologies that can give us different alloys that are used in traditional manufacturing. I also like to see the progress in the generative design software,
Yeah.
how that's going to work and create a whole new revolution in design. It's also going to help the people that want to design parts for additive be successful. Usually this industry has been experience-based, and generative tools will help us design engineers design for additive.
Yeah, that's really neat. I know that generative design, want to talk about that a little more. There's been so many great softwares that have been developed over the last couple of years that are pushing generative design forward. I guess talk about the use of that specifically inside of software, if you could. Like, what do you see that benefit being with generative design?
Oh gosh, let me try to sum it up as quick as I can. So today, and especially in the future, what's going to happen is a regular designer is going to, and maybe not, maybe somebody in marketing and sales
Sure.
is going to define geometry space and where mating conditions might be and loading conditions. And then they're going to pick library files based on different manufacturing methods. Might be composite in additive manufacturing. It might be casting of gray iron. It might be CNC Delron.
Mm.
And you'd pick these different library files and then pick a safety factor like 1.8. And you'd say go. And then it works in the cloud and gives you 100 different designs, have all these different manufacturing methods. Now, in a course of 2 hours, you can give your management and engineering teams hundreds of choices with cost data built into it and everything else. It used to take you months and months to do those kind of iterations manually. And now you can be able to do those things in 2 hours with all the data filtering in graphs to show you what's best for speed of production, what's best for cost, what's best for lightweighting. All that can be done for you. So it's going to make companies that do manufacturing and engineering much more productive.
It is. It's all about the production side of it and kind of ramping up things so you're not wasting materials, wasting processes, and getting down to the bottom line of getting a produced part. So it's exciting to see those developments. And I know you've had a long time of working for and with SME, and I was wondering like what role you see SME playing in the additive manufacturing space.
They can do multiple roles. One is to do training that needs to be done at different levels. And I'm not talking about just design engineers. I'm talking about marketing and sales executives, different coursework for them because additive will impact them differently. And they need to learn to speak the language like everything else. But also what SME can do is help take manufacturers, traditional manufacturers by the hand and get them into additive to see the benefits. And that's where it really needs to be done. There's so many companies that have been experimenting a little bit with additive and sending maybe a person to the conference, not really investing the resources in it. And I think that's happening now. I think a lot of big companies out there are looking at how much they want to invest and do it wisely.
Yeah, that's really been the look now, especially with what's happened over the pandemic with supply chains, and companies are obviously starting to take a look at mitigating risk with 3D printing. And that's just the latest wave of advancements inside of the manufacturing community, looking at what additive, benefits in the digital value chain out there. And there's a lot of great benefits, as we know, and it's constantly evolving and becoming better. So it's an exciting time. And a lot of what's evolving is because of our community. We have an AM community that gets things done and works together. And I think this community is a bit tighter because of its size. Everyone seems to know most of the players in the industry, but also communicate more openly about how we can improve together. And so I think it makes the AM community very special. But, what do you think defines the additive manufacturing community?
Well, that's a good question. I would say what defines them is they're very friendly, very smart people, willing to share things like you just touched on, even amongst competitors.
Yeah.
They'll share solutions and they're risk takers. A lot of the early people, they pushed additive forward as a solution. There was resistance and they kept pushing. And now we're at where we're at today, breaking barriers. So we don't stop as an industry when there's a barrier. We keep working the problem until we have a solution, whether it be software or hardware or process changes or research. We always find a way. And the people in the industry know that technology always goes where the money is. And there's a lot of money in manufacturing and in additive manufacturing. So they're encouraged by that.
That's a good point. I know there's a lot to be done, and there's a lot that happens that makes things. You were talking about the iterations becoming faster and the community around pushing that because of our communication. It becomes very interesting. I think a lot of it has to do with, failure. It's like you get to finding out what doesn't work quickly. And then once you find out where the failures are, you could learn how to overcome it very quickly and get to the next iteration a lot faster than some manufacturing methods. So that makes it very interesting to see the developments that go on with that kind of communication in the community. But a big part of the community is what's coming up with the education, our next generation, the next gen that's coming out and actually adopting these things and going to school to learn about additive and become part of the industry. So what's your advice for attracting younger people to additive manufacturing?
I'm already seeing a big change in the interns I've seen over the years. I've been having interns for 20 years, and additive manufacturing IQ has gotten higher and higher with every 3 or 4 years. My advice is to learn CAD as a breakaway to this. Get your own 3D printer or have one available to you in school, in middle school and high school. and in college, and then get a broad background in college too in engineering. And then don't give up. Find out what you want to do in life and what you're good at and do it. To be successful in life, you either have to be good in it or be passionate about it. And most people I've seen in the industry are both.
Yeah.
And so I would say, don't give up on your dreams. Go for it.
Keep pushing. Yeah, and I know it's very important to have people that reach out their hand for the next generation. So happy to see you doing that. And I know that's a big part of our community that gives back a lot of ways, is keeping that hand out and open to the next generation of young individuals who are getting into their actual career. And we want them to stick around in AM. So I think it's very attractive that way. And it's good to hear all the different programs and things that people are working on to attract more people into the industry. And I know SME does a lot of that great work. So looking forward to being part of that and kind of helping. I'm always open to talking with the next generation. At RAPID TCT, it's a good place to actually talk with students. And there's a lot of student tours that go on. We welcome students to look around, to talk. We actually set up different, stop by the booths and talk to the different companies. And it's a friendly place for students and for that young generation to kind of get a good hands-on look and talk to the people that are doing it. So that's exciting. And I've actually been a big part of those tours over the years. So I'm looking forward to doing that again this year at RAPID. So a lot of great things we talked about, and it's been wonderful having you here today. I know that AM additive manufacturing is evolving. So what do you see evolving inside of AM in the next few years?
I think, again, there's more and more new creative processes in additive, especially in metal, that's coming into place. But the bottom line is cost. I'm seeing the costs, and we'll see the costs go down lower and lower for people making metal parts. And once they do that, then we're not talking about 1 or 2 machines in a company floor. We're talking about 40 machines, 100 machines on the factory floor producing parts with software managing all that to be totally agile and have quality control and PPAPs and things like that. So I think that's where we're headed, is lower cost per part. I hate to make it so simple like that. And that's going to be a big, big difference in our industry. But I think the next generation is coming in is they realize that they can be creative a lot more with additive. Anything they can think of in their mind, they can make.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point, because there's so many creative people out there, especially in the maker space within 3D printing, that kind of add that element of, hey, let's get crazy with this. Let's do a little bit something different, come up with a different design. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you could do that a lot quicker and find out what works and what you should move past inside of a lot of different softwares and a lot of different processes and a lot of iterations. Yeah, I like that part of the manufacturing process with additive.
I'd like to add this one too. We're going to see multiple technologies that can produce different materials in the same part. Ceramic, composite, even metal, all in one part. And that's going to impact how we design things for the future.
Big time.
As well.
Yeah.
So those kind of signs that see those technologies coming forth.
Definitely is. It's an exciting industry, exciting technology, a lot of new technology that's pushing things forward. Kevin, it's been great to have you here. Is there anything else you'd like to add while we have you here?
No, it's great to talk to you though and discuss what's going on in the industry. It's very exciting times. If you get involved in this industry, and I encourage you to do so, realize there's all kinds of jobs in our industry. You can't get enough skilled people, and it's very exciting, and you become very passionate about it very, very quickly.
Yes, you can. Well, thanks for being a positive leader and an SME additive manufacturing influencer, Kevin. It's been great to have you here today.
All right. Thank you, Adam.